In these blizzards set up with my opponent obviously going to go for one border Europe, I decided to put my capital in the territory of Russia, and then another army which was quite bigger in South America, so I would potentially be able to capture and hold half of the map, after my opponent ending his turn wiping him out from South America, Africa, Australia and Asia, and then fortifying my secondary army either in the territory of the Guianas, or Central America. But unfortunately the territory setup wasn't the most ideal for me to do so I had to guess where my opponent was going to add his secondary army, as it was very likely for him to put some troops outside of Europe in order to not get trapped into it. But my guess was absolutely wrong, as with me putting my secondary army in South America, my opponent put his one in Africa. So with me being blocked from Africa, he captured it as well next to Europe. So the game was basically over for me, so unless somehow I would have gotten his European capital, so because of that I fortified my secondary army to my capital to prepare blitzing my opponent. But he was obviously smart enough to strengthen it, so that didn't work out. I think with our territory selection, the best shot for me would have been to put my second army in the territory of Middle East, as then it would have given me a potential opportunity to hold Asia, which is worth 5 troops in comparison with Europe's 3. My opponent, if adding his secondary army near with enough troops, might have tried blitzing it, but with him unleashing my capital I would have still had chances to go for the Asian plan. Though even if succeeding on capturing and holding Asia at first, it might have still been very hard to play with it, as I would have needed to balance out the capital's safety with along of making sure that I have enough troops on my non-capital border, as once the blue player invaded Asia after me capturing it, he would have prevailed. But anyway, with me after our territory selection ending up in a guessing stage where I have to predict where my opponent put his secondary army, I think the most reasonable thing is to go back to the territories picking stage and see if I could have done something to prevent that. And I think I found very crucial territory picking mistake. At this moment I picked the territory of Brazil, which was a big mistake. What I should have done is to leave that territory for my opponent. My opponent was the player who selects the last territory, so I could have left any territory for him to select which I wanted. So then if I hadn't selected that territory, then I would have been able to place my secondary army in the territory of North Africa, which would have been perfect to cover all 3 bottom continents, South America, Africa, and Australia. And then if with him capturing North America, it would have been accessible for me too. But while my opponent wouldn't have been guaranteed to get another continent so easily without any big efforts like he did with Africa in our game, it would have still been possible that he could have crushed that army, with me adding it in North Africa, and then with my capital troops being blocked, I would have been in a bad situation as well, in case he would have crushed my North African army successfully. So then I have to think if there was something what would have prevented that as well, and I think I found a solution for that as well. If I had put my capital army in the territory of Middle East instead of Russia, then even with my opponent crushing North African army, I would have still been accessible with my capital army to capture the continents of Australia, Africa, and South America, and then to invade the blue player into North America in case he would have captured it as well. And then while the blue player would have been getting extra 3 continental troops for holding Europe, I would have been getting 5 of them with me holding South America, Africa and Australia,